General Motors had all these great V8 engines, pushrod engines that were more modern. So they quickly came out with the Y block. Now, how to identify the two is totally different. Ford started coming out with more engine families because Chevy had 5 different brands all developing their own engines in-house. So they each had their own V8 engine department. So Ford, after the Ford Edsel did not succeed, they decided to put their focus into engine families. So they went from, for example, the Y block to the Ford Edsel engines, to the Windsor engines, to the Cleveland engines. They had the 385 big block. They eventually went to the modular engines, where Chevy sort of consolidated all their engines. They eventually went to the corporate engines, and Chevy engines are typically referred to just as small blocks and the number of the cubic inch displacement. So, for example, Ford, you would say this vehicle has an FE engine or a Cleveland engine or a small block Windsor engine, the internal dimensions. Now, let's talk about Chevy small blocks. So a lot of people want to know, did the LS engines replace the small block? And the answer is yes or no. They can call this a continuous evolution or a continuation in development. So what they mean is essentially after the iron blocks of the first and the second generation of the small block, the LS series was an aluminum block. So for example, the C5 Corvette, which came around in 1997, was the main advantage was it was a lighter aluminum block. So it shared very few, if no components besides some of the rotating assembly of the previous generation, but it was an aluminum block. So that was the biggest difference when they switched to the LS series. So they are smaller in displacement. They're typically lighter than Ford engines. And so the LS swap is essentially when you take a newer LS engine and put it into an older Chevy product that would have had the original small block. That is what's the most popular